Hello everybody, welcome to this instruction video. In this video I'd like to show you how to make flower brooches. You can see here these flowers are attached to a brooch pin. And these flowers have been made in aid of the Lymphoma Association. Lymphoma Association is an organization that is helping people with lymphoma cancer. You can show your support by wearing one of these flower brooches. I'll show you how to make them. You don't need a lot of yarn, so you can use any colors you like. If you use the purple shades, that matches the logo of the association beautifully. I'll however not be using the purple shades for the video, but I'll be using the yellow shades. The reason is with the purple yarn you won't really be able to see what I'm doing because the yarn is too dark. So I'll show you using the yellow and grey shades here. You can use any yarn you like. I'm using a cotton yarn, more specifically Scheepjes Katona yarn, and I'm using that in combination with a 3mm crochet hook. Take you step by step through the rounds that make up this little pattern. Thank you for watching, and I hope it's a useful video for you. Your foundation row, going to make a slip knot and put this on my hook. Then we're going to do a chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then close to the first slip stitch, the first chain stitch with a slip stitch. There you go. And that gives you a little round with a small hole in the middle. If you pull it apart, you'll see a little hole there. We're going to be working 10 double crochets into this little ring. Start with the chain 1. This does not count as a stitch, it's just to get you to the correct working height. Then in the ring, you need to find the center, set your hook to work your first double crochet. And that once you got that first one in, then the rest usually follows pretty easy. So you can see that little hole that's there now. So that was 1. I'm going to do 9 more. It is all a little fiddly. 2. It's your third double crochet. 4, 5, 6, 7. At this point I'm almost like at the beginning, but I have a few more to do, so I'm just going to move everything up. Just pull at that center, and then you have create a little bit more room. So 7, so I need 3 more. 7, 8, 9, and this here's number 10. Now I'm going to close on the first stitch. It's that first double crochet. I'm going to close on there with a slip stitch. You're going to skip that chain 1, you're just going to cover that. So now you have 10 double crochets. Round 1. In this round you're going to be making chain 5 loops. We're currently in that first stitch, that first double crochet stitch. I'm going to move with a slip stitch to the next stitch. Then chain 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then in the same stitch, make another slip stitch. There you go. And slip stitch into the next stitch. There you go. Now from that first slip stitch right here to the last one, we're going to repeat that 4 more times. So that's going to give us 5 loops in total. Slip stitch onto the next stitch. Chain 5, 2, 3, 4, 5, slip stitch in the same stitch and slip stitch in the next. Let's repeat number 2. Again, slip stitch in the next. And these slip stitches are a little tight sometimes. Chain 5, 4, 5, followed by a slip stitch in the same stitch, and a slip stitch in the next. 3 loops. Number 4, slip stitch in the next, chain 5, 2, 3, 5, slip stitch in the same stitch, slip stitch in the next. So you've got 4 loops now, number 5, so it's slip stitch in the next, chain 5, 4, 5, slip stitch in the same stitch, and to finish, slip stitch in the next, which is your first, and if I can just pull this through, stitch. There we go. So this repeats round 1. You now have 5 of these chain 5 loops. Round 2. We're now again going to make chain 5 spaces, and this time we're going to be making them below the loops that we already made. We're going to start in our current position, so that's that slip stitch between the loops, chain 5, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now we're going to skip the next loop, that's this loop here, and then go to the stitches that's in between and make a slip stitch there. So I'm going to make a slip stitch in between those two. And what you want to pay attention to is when you do this is that you don't bring this chain 5 space you just made forward, but that it goes around the back. I don't know if you can see this. So this loop I want it to the back, and that loop of round 1 stays on the front, and the one of round 2, which we're now making, goes to the back. And then just punch your hook in there and make a slip stitch. So it gives you 2 loops. You've got this one from round 1 and the one from round 2 there to the back. Again, chain 5, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then passing underneath the next chain 5 space, punch your hook in between the 2 to make a slip stitch and close. That's the second one, and here you can again see this loop here to the back. I know it's all a little fiddly here to the back, and again chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, skipping the chain space in the next, in there, make a slip stitch. And I know it's very full because you already have slip stitches in there, so just punch your hook in there somewhere. You'll be fine because everything is all the same color. You don't really notice if it's just a millimeter off or 2. Again, chain 5, so that's 1, 2, 3, 5. Coming behind again, in the middle, insert and make a slip stitch. Then again, chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is the last one. I'm going to close on that first place, on the first stitch. You see that's where you started there. I'm going to close there with a slip stitch again. There you go. At this point you can cut your yarn. So I'm just going to cut my yarn. I'm going to open up, just pull this forward, and this yarn tail and this yarn tail you can now work away, because from now on you're going to use your second color. What you now have is you've got these chain 5 loops from round 1, and on the back of them here you've also got chain 5 loops to the back, and we're going to be working in the chain 5 loops from round 2, so the ones we just used for the next round. Round 3, using your second color, I'm going to attach my yarn in between the chain 5 loops from round 1. So those are the chain 5 loops from round 1. Those are the ones from round 2. And kind of here in the middle there, I'm just going to insert my hook and attach with a slip stitch. Now we're going to work in the chain 5 loop from round 2. So that's the one you've got here to the back, the one you just made. In there, I'm going to make a, let me just get this straight. So I'm going to work over the yarn tail that I have, so I'm going to work it away as I go. Then start with a double crochet. So in that stitch, in that chain 5 loop, make a double crochet, a treble, a double treble, another double treble. So I've got 2 of them in the same space. You can see how I'm still working over this thread, so then I don't have to work it in later. So it just saves me a bit of time. Now I have 2 double trebles, chain 3, and now come back and work a slip stitch here at the top of this last treble you just worked. So through that position there, so through the top there, work a slip stitch. This is a variation on a picot that you're making. And twice over again for another double treble, a treble and a double, all in that same space. So this then completes your flower petal. Going to make a slip stitch in between these stitches, these loops, so kind of that space here. Just going to kind of push my hook in here, so I'm going to go up there, push my hook in, and then go to the next loop with again a double, a treble, a double treble, you're going to make 2 again, another double treble, chain 3, then make a slip stitch in the top of the last stitch made, another double treble, first a double treble, then a treble, and then a single, a double crochet, and again a slip stitch in between these loops, and again just punch your hook in there somewhere. Those are 2 flower petals made. I'm going to do exactly the same on the other 3 loops here also. So I'm going to make a jump in the video. So in your next loop, again, work exactly what you did here. So it's a double treble, 2 double trebles, the picot, double treble, treble, and a double, and then close again with a slip stitch in between the next 2. So that's going to be in there. I'm going to make the slip stitch. I'm going to make a jump, so I'm going to work these other 3 petals, and then I'll just see you here for how we're going to close and go to the next round. I've done all the flower petals. What I'm going to do is in the first stitch where I made the slip stitch, just going to go in there also and close with a slip stitch. And this completes round 3. Round 4, this round may be a little tricky because we're going to be working in the front here. We're going to be making trebles there, but currently of course our yarn is here to the, in round 3 and a bit to the back. What we're going to do is turn your work around. And in here, on round 1, those stitches there, make a slip stitch in round 1. Now, it's not very critical exactly where you make it. I'm going to make it in that loop there. In that loop, I'm going to make a slip stitch. So, making a slip stitch through there, and you might have to help your hook a little bit through a loop. Make a slip stitch. So this brings your loop to the back. Now open up your loop. Open it up. Make it larger. I'm going to take my hook out and insert my hook through the little hole that's the center of the flower. I'm going to pick up this loop and bring it forward. And then pull your yarn again so that you can close this loop to a good working position. So this is, so you want your hook to be really at the level of the flower. Now we're going to be working here at the front, but of course currently your yarn is here to the back, so you can't really work this very properly. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go just a little bit further, because you don't need a lot of yarn, because we're going to be making 5 trebles. Then roughly enough yarn for 5 trebles. I'm going to cut my yarn. And then I'm going to bring this yarn tail that I have here, I'm going to bring it forward. I'm just going to open up that loop a little bit again. So if you're unsure that you don't want to have this falling out, you can put a stitch marker in here to just keep it on its place. I think everything should be fine. I'm going to insert my hook also and bring this yarn tail that I have here. I'm going to bring this forward also and pull through. So now I've got about 30 centimeters or so of yarn on the front, and I've got my working loop here. Now we're ready to start the stitches of round 4. What we're going to be doing is going to be making trebles in between the chain 5s from round 1. So you see there's that chain 5, then in between there, so that's that position, going to be making a treble, and we're going to do that for each of these 5 loops that we have. So that means yarn over. See, I'm just opening up that loop a little bit too much. I'm just going to pull it tight, just closing it a bit, and then again yarn over. Then if in between there, work a treble. That's 1. And then also the next one. And it doesn't matter if you go clockwise or counterclockwise, whatever works for you. Work a treble in the space of each of these chain 5 loops that you have. Second treble, and this is a third one here. And when I finish, I'm just going to have to fashion this a little bit, because I'm working, this is all being pulled a little bit out of its place. And then the last one is this one here. You can see I've just got enough yarn, so you need about 30, maybe 40 centimeters for these stitches. And the last one. And now I'm going to close on this first stitch, and that's going to be that's the loop here, kind of in the middle. Close on there with a slip stitch. Let me just do that again. Now open up this yarn tail. I'm just going to pull through and bring these chain 5 loops from round 1, especially this one here that's folded back. Just fashion them a little bit. There we go. And then this completes the flower. So what am I going to do? I'm going to put this on my yarn needle and bring this to the back, just by sticking it in there and bringing it to the back. And that completes the flower. Last step, you have the flower. I've got a small brooch pin here. You can have several kinds of pins. This is the one I have. So I'm going to use my yarn to attach this to the brooch pin. I've got 3 holes, so I'm just going to sew this on. So depending on what pin you have, you will of course be doing this in a different way. And you can see for me the pin is the flower is broader than the pin, so that makes it easy. So I don't have to be very careful that it doesn't show from the front. So I'm just going to attach this here, and that is of course just a little bit of detail, but you need to do this properly, otherwise your brooch pin could come undone. It's the first one, and I accidentally pulled out my yarn. Come back in here, and then through the last one, and catch a few stitches, and now it's secured to my flower, and I can now work away this yarn tail. So this is what it looks like from the back and from the front. Brings us to the end of this instruction video. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you again for a new project.